evening, everybody. How are we all doing?
Hi, Ricky. How are you?
Good, mate. Good. Bit of sunshine today, pal.
I know we're getting. Hopefully, we're in for a good August. I think we deserve it, don't we? To be fair,
We
been
do.
a
We've got to have more than 2 weeks or something. That's just taking the piss, isn't it?
yeah, it is a bit of a joke, to be fair. But no, it's been a good week. I'm ready for this holiday now. Last day for a week for me. So
Genuinely, though, this temps have got to be playing havoc with unheated ponds. We've
yeah,
seen it. We've seen it an uplift in kind of parasites we're having to deal with in the outdoor ponds that aren't heated. There's just not the temperature there. It's shocking.
no, it's true, and I
Really?
don't consider that because I've been heated for a while. But yeah, just trying to keep your feeding up and stuff like that. I guess could play
Yeah.
havoc with that if you.
Yeah. It's so inconsistent because then you're getting a day like today. It's warm. It'll probably lift a few degrees, and then it's not all that warm at night. You'll be losing it, and then you have a shit, cloudy, rainy day. You'll be losing it. It's
Yeah.
just it's that water temperature is consistent, and so the consistency is key to the success, really.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Crazy. So, yes, folks. Anyway, feel free as you're watching to start firing in any questions that you've got that you'd like us to discuss or answer. I believe Joe has just told me he's been spending all his wages at the farm, which made me chuckle. Yeah, nice. And I've also got a quick video. I'm going to have another chat about sockeye fish. I can't help it because I've been through the pond that's been spoke about. Was it Monday? I think it was Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
My goodness. I think it's fair to say I posted a little video on the Facebook page as well that's had nearly 1,000 likes. I think they've been pretty popular.
To be fair, I think I scrolled past that, and well, I didn't scroll past it. I was scrolling down my timeline, and it popped up, and I instantly thought it was someone in Japan had posted the video. I didn't see who it was that had posted it, and Chris said, "Oh, did you see what we posted on Facebook last night on the auction?" I said, "Oh, I didn't know." I brought it up, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Yeah, it was. They're shocking. Them unbelievable.
Yeah. So I'm just blown away. So let's say it was 130 fish came out, and average size 28 was the smallest, and what did we get up to? 40 at the biggest end. Crazy.
Yeah.
But average was sort of like 35. Just
Wow.
mega impressed. The general body, I can see there's going to be some. Certainly now this round of growth coming with. I was aiming. This was a bad bit. I mean, I just can't do it. I was planning to take it down to 50 fish left in the pond, and I only managed to keep it at 78.
Bloody hell.
I couldn't squeeze it anymore.
No.
I couldn't do it.
No, to be fair, them pieces are worth staying at the farm, aren't they, and growing on. To release them. I don't know whether you'd be getting, value for releasing them at the minute.
It's not. That's the enjoyment, Joe. It's you want to get them, looking their absolute peak. And to be fair, I had a bit of conundrum because we had, I would say, the size. Really, there was fish in there. I would have wanted to move to a different pond. I've just not got a pond available, and rather than take those fish out, I've just chose to leave them in there and probably just accept that it might hamper, 2 or 3 centimeters of growth on there. But hey, at the end of the day, they're still going to grow and body up. So fingers crossed, we'll see where we get.
Yeah.
I just got somebody telling us the YouTube, the sound has gone. Guys who are tuning in on YouTube, I can see there's a few of you. Just let us know, give us a thumbs up, make sure everything is all right over there.
I've checked it on my side. It seems to be all right.
Yeah, fair enough. Maybe just a glitch locally on that one then.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I say, guys, feel free to start firing any questions in. I think let's all start with Joe's latest purchase and scrutinise that one.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I've been after one of these for a while. I did take a bit of a punt a couple of years ago on an Omasako male.
Yeah.
Because I think generally you can't really tell the male. Obviously, the head color on this one. Some people say males, yellow heads or whatever, but this was one that actually was posted out as an option for the dealers, but they didn't gut jump on it, and I just kind of see quite a bit of potential in this one. Just with the Sumi quality at that back end, and although the condition, it's a bit red at this point, but it had just been moved outdoors, I think, when this video was taken. But yeah, I have an example at home that was Nisai, and I bought it and it had no Sumi up, and it all came up in the winter. But as soon as I started raising the temperatures, the Sumi's gone again. And it's happened a second time now, so I'm thinking it's never shown me an example of Sumi up like fully, like that one that I've just bought. That one's got an example of it. It's also got Motoguru and black in both the eyes, and I don't know whether that shows something, but to me it was just another nice feature.
That is that type of Sumi. So this is the one I think you've been following this as I've sort of spoke about, and it sort of materializes in the top of the skin.
Yeah.
Rather than coming up from deep, which is like the Dainichi style Sumi you see where it's sat down, you get that grey kind of effect at the surface, Kage effect sometimes as well, you know, so that Kage Sumi really, you know, it sits there, you know it's there, you can see it happening, you just got to give it time because it's coming from really, really deep. This doesn't work that way, so you can't really predict what's coming either. Because what you'll get is if you just play the video again, you'll see kind of towards just in front of the dorsal, that area.
Yeah.
So Sumi sort of comes through in like spots almost. You get a little piece appear. It can even just be a dusty grey. The next thing it's thickened up. The next thing there's another spot. Before you know it, you've got a cluster, and that cluster then actually forms real Sumi, thick blocks. But the thing with it is, and it can come quickly, far more the Dainichi stuff, you know, when you're into that type of Sumi, you're more than likely just going to have to wait. Temperature will influence it as it does, but naturally time is the only thing that eventually gets it where it needs to be. With this sort of Sumi, within a temperature drop in 6 months, you can almost have a completely different fish.
Yeah.
But it does tend to be more volatile to environmental changes, such as stress and such as temperature, which, to be honest, the temperature can be a bit of a stress when it gets that warm. So it's a journey. It is a journey.
I'm tempted not to get rid of the one that I have that's losing its Sumi every time I turn the temperature up, because when it does come up, the pattern is phenomenal on it. Like it's got, you know, it's got the lightning strike down the head and kind of a checkerboard pattern. It looks lovely and it's threatening to be amazing. But I don't know whether I'm raising the temperature too quickly and it's just, you know, or if there's anything I can do to really, you know, it could be.
It's just the warmer water, mate. It will be forever volatile. It could be that it gets to a certain age, but fish from that type of Sumi I have known, and Omasako, to be honest with you, the Sumi is a bit of a mystery anyway. You know, I've looked at first-hand accounts of guys who have had mature fish 5-6 years old that were finished, looking amazing, gone into mud pond, come out white. You know, it's leery stuff, but it's good fun, and that's obviously part of it as well. You know, to enjoy that journey and that process, and potentially get something that's not from where it is now, could be a completely different beast.
Yeah, and it's like with the Omasako stuff, I think you have got that opportunity and it's that gamble, isn't it? That's the fun part of it. Like to me, it's one of the more fun varieties, like a shower, because you can take them at Tosai and Nisai and have a totally different fish in a few years. So you know, I'm taking a bit of a gamble with that. But to me, it wasn't even a consideration that it's male, because some of the bodies on some of them males are really impressive. So,
mate, to be honest with you, I mean, when you're talking Omasako, Nisai female, the you know, the starting benchmark there is high. You know, it really is. So yeah, again, just well worth it. And they are, as you'd probably expect, leading the way in male Shiros for sure. Still lagging a bit behind some of the other varieties, but yeah, you know, overall they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, and Chris mentioned last night that Omasako is dabbling in Goshki now. Have you seen?
That's a while. That's a hobby variety at the farm. That is. Yeah, and that's going right back to 2014, 15, 16, around that time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I remember doing some gormless video with Takahiro and a group of customers about this Goshki thing he was doing. It was just bizarre, one of them Japanese moments. But yeah, it is literally just a hobby at the farm, that one. So you don't tend to see many numbers. It's not all that impressive, to be honest.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but they're entitled, same as any of us, to muck around with some stuff.
Yeah.
Hence the ponds of Tamasaba. this year.
I was gonna say how long it took us to get onto them. To be fair, honestly, people need to see an update video on your bowling ball. It's unreal, is that thing?
I lifted that up to show someone today. I literally can't get it in my hand anymore. She is insane.
It is phenomenal.
Insane. Yeah. So again, guys, I'm going to start. We've got a couple of questions in, but feel free to fire any in. If not, me and Joe will just kind of natter amongst ourselves. Got a bit of a Sakai video to share with you in a moment if you haven't seen it already. I know a lot of people have. Okay. I'm going to start salting after listening to many conversations. Just need a starting point. Right. So my starting point on that one is, why are you salting? Because it's, for me, not just something you sort of do willy-nilly or for no reason. Obviously, if you've got nitrite issues that you're concerned about, it's very good for that. Other than that, it's general, recovering from illness, high stress events, anything like that they've been through. This is when you want to be using salt. I recommend that you get a digital testing meter. They're not crazy expensive. One of the Koi Medic ones. And yeah, I mean, if you're going for kind of a background level for the circumstances I just discussed, 0.3%, which is half an ounce per gallon, it will be absolutely fine. There'll be no negative effects from that. You only want to be raising it stronger, if it is from, serious illness or something like that. So can raise up to about 0.6%. That's generally the level we'll be using if they're recovering from sleeping sickness or going through that along them lines. But typically, 0.3%, half ounce per gallon, be where to go. Just don't go throwing salt in your pond if there is no reason, because there is no reason to put it in there. That's where I'd be with that one. But also, the people out there that say you shouldn't use it, you shouldn't have it in your pond, that's absolute bollocks. Trust me, the Japanese koi industry and importers would fall apart if they didn't have salt at hand for quite a lot of fish species coming in, to be honest, even into tropical fish as well. So really, really important for recovering, the osmotic system from high periods of stress. And like I say, a tool that many of us wouldn't be without. So I'd say for those out there saying no, they've generally probably not got that experience enough to actually make that comment. Right, let's have a look. Colin Holland, is that it? How are we doing, Colin? Nitrate question. I've plumbed my drum to clean from mains water, which goes straight down the drain, so the pond won't get fresh water. What do I do about nitrate? I would say take your test kit, throw it in the bin. Don't worry about it. To be honest. So that's where I'm at with that one. And I'll say it as I said it before. It might be one of them things. It'd be an argument. It does this. It does that. I've not got that into it. It might be that if you are, as a koi keeper, feel like you have done absolutely everything else possible to maximize what you're getting out of your fish, i.e. you are you're heating for a start, you've mastered the art of feeding, just all the other things, and you literally think, well, what can I do to extract that extra 3 millimeters out of them this year? Then maybe consider looking at your nitrate. But I've still yet to see anything, and pond fish being kept in ponds for long periods of time as well, not just 6-12 months as people have liked to argue in the past when I've said this. And seen no downsides from it, to be honest with you. I think there's far more things, bigger things to be concerned about than that. But I suppose now you're going to tell me you test your nitrate, Joe.
No, to be honest, I don't. I mean, the only thing that I do have is I have that mind your own business plant in my showers, and somebody told me that does get rid of nitrate, and I thought, well, I'm going to have it in there anyway, so if that's an additional benefit. But I don't test for it. One of my pet hates is that you actually get that as part of some of the multi-packs of tests, because for me it was a bit confusing at the beginning testing that, and now I've become more knowledgeable. I think that confuses a few new hobbyists.
It's actually interesting. I'm just going to drag this up because I had a message from a koi keeper in Belgium earlier who is really he said he's really struggling with his water. I'm yet to reply. I've not had a chance. Quite a big message, but in a nutshell, and when I saw this, I knew exactly what this one. We are dealing with 0.1 and 0.18 of ammonia,
Right.
0.25 to 0.27 of nitrite, which straight away tells me there's a digital tester
Yeah.
play there. When you're tracing down to them kind of levels, this is the sort of stuff that's just going to drive you absolutely insane. But again, same scenario I've seen. I know this has gone off the nitrate debate, but I think at times we're looking for too many problems. And this bit here is where, straight away I've tried to increase the feeding. I get an ammonia spike, I get a nitrite spike. So we changed the feeding regime too quickly, is what I'm going to be saying here. I'm going to be changing 20% daily for 5 days. And measure again.
Yeah.
You're just never allowing the system chance to seed. You've got the heating and you've got the consistent temperatures. You've got to let the system develop to the new circumstances. It takes time. If you're looking at it all too much, I probably never noticed the difference, because between one test and another, unless I see something alarming, it's already sorted itself out.
Yeah.
But the main thing there is just how I'm saying, too quick to jump in. You've got to give it time to adjust. Those kind of parameters just described there are not really going to do anything over the short space of time it's going to take for that to actually reduce right down.
Yeah.
Not going to do anything.
No.
I think Arthur's here. I'm at home today. Oh yeah, Tati's had chalk pens in their hair.
He's done the wrong colour on his hair. Is that meant to be white, not red?
He said Leeds colour. No. Really. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of the problem. There's too much attention.
Yeah.
Or just not giving it the time. Things need time to adapt. And I'd say those parameters are not just going to kill your fish overnight or do any serious damage over that period of time, because it will start reducing.
One of the things I was kindly sent a Senai to have a play around with tester.
Oh yeah.
And I've put that on my pond, and I have actually been really watching my pH go up and down.
Yeah.
And I've just recently PP'd, and I've seen my pH actually spike, like go off. And that's quite interesting. But I was impressed with Senai, and I'm only kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit, is that their graphs where it pings you a text message and says something's wrong here, is if it like goes over, say, 9 pH, and they kind of give. Some of them are pretty good at giving you like these buffers, and it explains to you as well like what the levels should be and what can be toxic. So I think the people that create kind of the drop tests are more the issue in terms of setting people's mindsets, because the one that sticks in my mind is if it's in the pink mark, it's got a skull and crossbones next to it in nitrite. And to me, I'm thinking, bloody hell, I'm going to kill my fish, so I'm going to have to trickle it out, or I'm going to have to do a water change. But actually, when you speak to someone like yourself, just says give your system a bit of time, the stress of a new hobbyist thinking you're going to kill your fish.
It's an inherent. It's just one of those things that even amongst the knowledge that passes around, it needs to be zero. It needs to be zero. It's just not real. It's never zero. It's always going to be some level there, and it's just knowing what is truly acceptable and what it's going to do over time. There are certain parameters. You say pH there. pH is you've got to be careful with your pH, because too big a swings in that, and certainly potentially pH crashes can do a hell of a lot of damage over a short time. You lose 2-3 points of pH if it crashes in that short space of time. You've got dead fish on your hands.
Yeah.
So that one you always want to be cautious of. But let's say nitrite, ammonia. I'm not absolutely saying ammonia is nasty stuff, but the reality is there's constantly going to be variations and spikes in your system at different events, and you've just got to give it a chance. The difference is as well, obviously, temperature plays a big part. I don't worry so much because I know at the water temperatures I've got, the speed at which it can correct itself is crazy. Difference when I don't know what ambient temperatures are out. Maybe someone in the comments can let us know where they're at ambiently, just outside at the minute. And that to me is where the issues can come with this, because you go and get a fairly bad ammonia spike when your water's cooler and you've not got the heat. It's going to take a longer period for the system to adapt, pull itself back in line. That longer term exposure is when it start, pissing the fish off. But ultimately, again, you guys won't have seen some of the stuff I've seen Japanese expose the fish to. 16. Wow, that's crazy, Tony. That is just madness. That's stressful. That is stressful. But yeah, just some breeders, for example. I know one guy, Kaneko. He has a fish house next to his fish house, and all the fish that are harvested come in. He's got these tanks that must be 1.5 meter square. These have no filtration other than an air stone. All the newly harvested fish from the mud ponds get put in there with fresh water, with the air stone on. They live in there for probably a week or so, just with a daily water change. And more often than not, the ammonia is stinking because you'll pull the bamboo screen back and it knocks your head off.
Yeah.
And they're living like that, and they come out of it. They're having medication while they're in there as well, because that's the purpose of it. It's to medicate the fish, basically quarantine them before they go into the main fish houses, and they're fine.
Yeah. I think I do, there's a comment here that says, people having different opinions. Like Lee has got more tech on his pond now than you would ever have, I think, at a personal pond of yours. I think there's no right or wrong way to keep koi, and that's what makes it really interesting. And I think people just look for snippets here and there to gain like small advantages.
I get it's a hobby from your guys' side. It's never been that for me. It's an absolute passion. It's been a huge part of my life for such a long time now, but it's always been commercially. And I think when all of a sudden, if you've got one pond, time on your hands, you like the gadgets. I love gadgets. I just don't like gadgets and koi.
Yeah,
it doesn't fit me. But when all of a sudden you're faced with 60 ponds, 30 or 40,000 koi swimming around, you literally can't pay that amount of attention to everything. And this is where you learn. It's only till you've sort of pushed the boundaries you get to know where they really are and how they react in different scenarios as well, and how you recover it from that and what it can potentially do to them. But there is no wrong. It's each to their own. If you want complication, I know some people in the hobby who prefer the water science side more than the actual koi keeping.
Yeah.
Great. There is something in the hobby for everybody. If that's what you enjoy. I don't. The bit that only just frustrates me is, I see this, people taking too much information in could cause a lot of stress. In the hobby, because all that information, then it's what do you do with it? How do you compute it? When you're watching it all too much, it's like when you see a nitrate go from 0.1 to 0.2 or 0.1 to 0.15, I just think that's too much information to have.
I think you're totally right as well. I think there's a difference in mindset from them being pets to being livestock as well. When you get when the pets, like, you get emotionally attached to them when you've started a pond and you've grown. I'm still trying to make that transition. Like, I had to put a fish down not so long ago. I had a gill plate issue and it couldn't open its gills properly, so it wasn't breathing, and it was hovering on the surface to the point where it actually started to roll, and it wasn't. And I thought, no, I need to do something about it. And it still gets me emotional putting them down, because to me, the pets, they're intelligent animals to some extent. And I think there's, when you getting these test kits and you think, God, I'm going to kill them. It's a different mindset to you going in and, I guess, pushing the boundaries with them. And because I think you see it more from and you obviously, I'm not saying you don't care for fish. I know you care for fish a hell of a lot, but it's a different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I just think, like I say, I've done gadgets and stuff in the past all the time, but I just think I know where they all end up. That's reality. And after 23 or so years now, it's just different. And I used to faff a lot. My God, if my first pond, I don't know what I can compare it to, but I wouldn't have wanted to be a fish going in there, to be honest with you, because I used to love nothing more than catching them. Yeah, catching them to have a look at them in the bowl, massive stress event. to practice my handling. Love it, fantastic. Used to do it all, and it was just not cool, really, looking back. But that's what you're doing, trying different bits of kit, tinkering. But even to the point where I remember having events we'd do, and what you tend to do, all of a sudden we've got this mass, run up to an event whereby, we've got this date set, you've got people coming, you're moving fish around, and all of a sudden you get them flicking and jumping, and you start doing things, panicking.
Yeah.
I remember a pond that's just sprung to mind, back at my dad's shop we did for this particular event coming up, and these fish were just bouncing off the walls. And, once we'd kind of done, I can't remember if it was parasitic, but we just started sort of hitting them with meds thinking, oh, that might do it, that might do it, that might do it, that might do it. And everything you did in such a short space of time, this is the thing you get, it just seemed to make things worse.
Yeah.
Sure enough, event went, just left alone for a couple of weeks. What happened? Everything just settled down. You can't sometimes, you might cause irritation in a gill or something like that. You might have a fish flicking for a week.
Yeah.
You might have them all flicking for a week, and it's going to clear in the end. As long as you rule out it being anything parasitic, in the end it's going to clear. But you've got to give it time. These things don't work instantly. Medications cause stress.
Yeah.
More often than not, you can add something in and it actually ends up doing, for a short term, more harm than good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So all this, and that is all experience has added to it now. It's just like, if it's coming up to something like that, when I see something, there's no reaction to do something quickly.
Yeah.
Like, right, stop. Do these just need time? And I think when you can get to that point is when you'll really hit real success in the hobby.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a stability is like the number one thing I've learned, since I've, been speaking with you, is that stability is your best friend with fish. And no matter what you change, if it's a small change or a little change, it can affect the whole ecosystem of a pond. And I guess, like, one of the main things for me again this year or moving into next year is, when I come into spring next year, I want to start my season and have a full season. Again, I felt like I came into this season really, really well prepared.
Yeah.
And I've kind of been turning my auto feeder on and off again. And I want to get to next season and just keep it on the whole season. And it frustrates me because I see fish in there that I would have wanted to have done more with.
Yes, but that's something I'm still like this now. This is something I've been having to get myself snapped out of. I'm a lot better now, but before I had my heating system, I put so much pressure on the feeding because I only had probably April to mid-September normally at the temperatures that I needed to get the fish grown. So put so much pressure on delivering it all in that time span because I knew that's the only window that I had. And that was for years and years and years. So it almost become subconscious. And more often than not, that would lead to me pushing the feeding too hard and sending the pond into a bit of a spiral, which then means a time period of readjustment where you've got to stop the feeding to let the pond come back round in order to start building up again. And you lose all that time in that period.
Yeah.
Crazy. Whereas now I've got the heat in. I am slowly. I still push it a bit too much sometimes, but it's natural. Again, when you're trying to find the level, you've got to. But I can't remember the last time I had a pond that went over the top and went over that line. It's just not there because I know now something's ain't quite right. I can slowly build them in. If they need an extra month, 2 months, whatever it is, the boiler will kick in and I've got the heat. But that again, it's just knowing you've got that experience. And like I say, I probably lost more time because of overfeeding when I was unheated than I should have done. Rather than just taking it steadier on that build up slowly and not crossing that line.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, but there's some of them ponds at the minute are pretty. I think they're on a knife edge. Personally, I think you're pushing them.
Mine?
Yeah, your pond, like the Dainichi pond with the the one on that right hand side.
Oh yeah.
No,
I've actually covered that in a video today. They're not nowhere near that. That pond has got so much more to give. There's actually an issue in there. We don't know if we've had a predator in the greenhouse or something has been spooking the fish in that pond.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm not going to say too much because it's coming out on a video we're doing soon, but something is causing the feed pattern and behavior to not be where it should be.
Right.
I'm looking at them going, I've got, feed should probably be 50% further on than where it is right now compared to what the Heliosauri were doing last year. I got no confidence in feeding.
Wow.
So, but yeah, pond wise, mate, so much more abuse can be thrown at that one yet.
That's interesting. I mean, they've grown phenomenally well already, to be fair.
I get them. The Sakai pond, seeing as though we come on to it now, the Sakai pond was the one, to be honest with you. That's the one there that I was looking at going, yeah, fish behavior is not quite right. More than likely, oxygen levels getting a bit too low from where they want to be. Because, when you're talking 130 fish at 35 cm average, 26-degree water, there's a lot there going on. And that was time to get some bodies out that pond and, give them all a bit more resource, really. So that's what we've done. So yeah, while we're on that one, guys, let's say you may or may not have seen the video. Here's just a little one to enjoy. This is Joe's got it. Look at that.
It's phenomenal.
I think there's 78 fish in that net that's all gone back in the pond. Average size on them was sort of like 30 to 40. Or 33 to 40, sorry. Just look at some of them bodies as well.
Yeah, it is phenomenal. But it's the Beni quality again. One of the big things for me is, even with the organic load on the pond and things like that, people talk about clarity in a pond for good Beni quality. Like, this just proves that a load of bollocks.
Yeah, I keep saying the opposite because I see just how much damage excessive UV can do to Beni.
Yeah.
But these things, I mean, it's the luster. I think that's the big bit that has been the argument for years, that you need, in order to achieve that skin luster, you need super low TDS and all the rest of the bollocks. They just continuously year after year prove it. That there is the water being well cared for, and that a lot of that is the food conditioning.
Yeah.
That is coming from within. It's creating that super healthy mucus layer. There's nothing in the water damaging it severely, i.e., a heavy metal load or anything like that. They're at a temperature whereby their immune system's really thriving and it's really active. Bob's your uncle, but for me, the big part in that is the diet. It's, like I say, coming from within, building that really, really super healthy mucus layer that's not being damaged then by anything external. And there's your results.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been a phenomenal batch of fish, haven't they, them, this year?
Let's just play it one more time, Joe, because I like watching that. Get stuff on.
Got it.
Insane.
I've been really impressed with even like some of the Beccos that you've kept this year.
Yeah. I'm enjoying a Becco at minute.
Yeah, I think they're going to be really nice as well. But these are so totally different although the same lineage and everything else from the Tucano stuff. They're just a different skin quality to the Tucano in terms of the gin and stuff like that. Like, you can tell it's a different breeder.
Really. Big thing again here as well to note, guys. So 78 fish in that net. I started out this batch of fish was 1,050 pieces when they arrived. Now that 1,058 at this point delivered me 78 fish. That's the bit you have to remember. And of that 78, I reckon there's probably 15 to 20 really top pieces in the making in there. But that is the reality for the breeders breeding them, and then when you're raising them as well, that's where it gets to. It's crazy numbers. Actually, I had somebody up, today saying, why don't you breed them? Just not a chance.
No,
not a chance. When you're working on 0 point percentages of spawnings as stuff being kept, especially when we haven't got the climate, I'm not into that.
No, I mean, it's something that's always intrigued me to mix a couple of different really wacky asagis or something together. Like, I'd love that personally, but it's the culling and stuff like that I just don't think I don't think I'd enjoy that element of it. And if I'm doing it as a hobby, I'd be moving them on to people who wouldn't necessarily correctly care for them and that kind of stuff. And that's just not for me. Giving them away to people, it's not, I never like the idea of that really.
Yeah, I mean, culling is something else. There's certain things that when it's something you tuned into, like when I did it, Sankey I quite enjoyed. Show I really enjoyed. Did Harawaki one time. I think I've told the story before. I was with Makoto NND, and these were probably no more than an inch and a half, these Harawaki. I mean, the yellow pigment's only just starting to break through the skin.
Right.
The criteria to look for was shine, which at that size is just remarkable. Shine, and then some pattern. And there's so many of them as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was in excess of 100,000 fish in this pond. And I just thought we were never going to get to the end of it. I'm not like it was a shit tedious job, that one. That felt like work big time.
Yeah.
That's why again a lot of breeders I think steer away from that stuff as well, because when you get into them varieties, the selection's so much more complicated. Crazy stuff. But not my bag, mate.
But no, I'm excited. Obviously, I know we're not talking about winter yet, whilst we're still in summer. But
yeah, do not even mention it, Joe.
I'm excited to see like where a lot of these batches end up that you brought in earlier in the year.
I've kept Koi for 4 years, but joining and listening has made me think differently to my approach. Listening subconsciously makes you look, review, and potentially makes you dabble when I shouldn't. Yeah, that's true, mate. But again, I get it, when you're learning, and this is why I say, in my early days, that tinkering was my learning. Then you just get to the point where, like I say, it all just kind of goes away. But that's hopefully what this advice is here for, to help you skip out some of those years and that tinkering and just skip some of them stressful steps. Because again, the worry for me is some of that stressful steps is what caused people to leave the hobby. And we can avoid that as much as possible. Then happy days. Stephen, how are we doing, buddy? How quickly does good bacteria respond to feeding? Like if you decrease feeding? Yeah, so I mean, if you're warm enough, let's base it on being 25 degrees. Normally, if I can physically see a pond without testing it, if I hit the feeding a little bit too hard and spike it, normally within 3 to 4 days, I see it working out. Within 5 days tops, really, I can see the pond having pulled itself back together without testing. Throughout this, maintaining a good KH is really important, because the KH really does prop up your filter performance. If you've not got it there, you're going to struggle to get the filter to come together all that quickly. If you're cooler, that's when the issue comes. It will take a lot longer for that to happen. I would say back at 16 degrees, as was mentioned, that's just not a lot of fun. I mean, you're basically on winter feeding at 16 degrees. You'd be looking at using like a multi-season type food or sake balance at the absolute most. Taking it steady. I mean, that really 16 degrees is probably 3-4 smallish feeds a day maximum. Don't want to be doing more than that, possibly even just 2 or 3, depending on your filtration. That is the madness of koi keeping with a British summer. I know Paul, listening over in Italy, is on the other end of that scale right now, and often is anyway. It's crazy.
Yeah. I noticed a big change when I started using an auto feeder, and you can bump it up a significant amount, and the fish don't necessarily or significantly change behavior. They don't flick, flash, or sulk if you're increasing the feed. I think you just got to, once you've been in the hobby a couple of years, and like I think now my eyes adjusting to see, as long as the fish are still feeding and behaving normally and that kind of stuff, then I'm not concerned about increasing the feed quite a significant amount, to be fair.
Yeah. I think there's that element of it being more sort of reactive than proactive.
Yeah.
I think, like I say, that proactive side can often give you too much information, which stops you progressing and pushing those boundaries a little bit.
Yeah.
Rory got 3 Tosai, Dainichi Koraku, Beni and Omasako Shiro, thinking of putting in a tank for winter, push the growth, but worried about Beni loss. Is it worth it or risky? Tank B by a full window for UV. Yeah, if you're getting some UV in there, then you're just reducing your risk. Obviously, it's tough. You will, unless you've got full sort of UV, you will get a thinning of the color. That will happen, but I don't see, if you've got some, it should be enough to help maintain it to a decent level, and get them obviously back out in spring, and it will recover. Yeah, I see no issues. The only time it's going to be an issue is if the color itself really hasn't got that potential anyway. And then when you strip away some of that UV and factors that basically just propping it up, and then you try and push them for growth, you will just tend to pull it apart a lot faster. So do bear that in mind. But overall, Rory, it's probably worth it if they've not had the best of summers. Let them have a stronger winter and get them back out the next year. And you can assist, with some lights that emit a bit of UV and stuff like that as well, just to further improve.
There's a goldfish that's produced in China, and it's black. And the Dr. David Poole, who's doing an article for us, he mentioned that they came into the UK like a grey colour, and one of the person that he were working with spoke to China and said, "These are not what I ordered. They're grey, not black." And the guy in China said, "Put them in a really shallow pond and expose them to sunlight, and the black just comes up instantly." So my perception was that sun is only for Beni, not for Sumi.
I'm really glad you've said that, Joe, because I see it happen with like people who raise shear. I could tell you straight away if a shearer had been raised in the dark.
Yeah.
It's not good at Kohaku, because it just strips all of the depth out of the color.
Right. Okay.
It makes it almost, the Sumi almost like a shadow on the body. The Sumi's up. It's there. You can have it all up. I've seen it in that style of fish, but it's not got the depth, quality, and shine. It loses all of that. UV is just so important. Combined with the diet, serious stuff.
Yeah. No,
that's interesting. I'm glad it said that, because that is so many times have I seen that, because people do just relate it to Beni, but it's the whole lot. The whole lot. Right, I am not going to be on too much longer, folks. It's the daughter's birthday today, and I can hear all the shenanigans going on in the background. She's been up since 5:30, bless her.
That means you've been up.
Well, yes. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Last question. There we go. Abby, how you doing, buddy? Looking for a good quarantine 6 foot by 3 foot for my garage. Any advice? Yeah, buy a fiberglass one. Not quite sure where the question is in that, Abby, to be honest, mate. It's a nice size, decent size, just for quarantine. Absolutely fine. I think the preformed fiberglass things are one of the best options, rather than potentially building it, because you've got something there that obviously it's at your house. Should you change your mind, not want it, you've got something there that will have a resale value as well, and move it around, do whatever you're doing. And just make sure you get a decent filtration on it. It's not so much always the volume of the water, it's more the filtration that's actually attached to it, which will ultimately govern the performance of the tank. And probably just make sure you do have something in there at all times running in the quarantine tank, just to keep the filter on tick over. But then also realize, tying back into the earlier conversation, if you've got 10 fish in there feeding a certain amount every day, you go and dump 5 more fish in and start feeding a bit more. Even just dumping the 5 more fish in, you are going to cause to knock that environment and that filter out of sync, and it'll need to recover again for a little while. So same scenario there.
If you were looking at a grow on tank, because it's something I want to do, they come in 300, 500, and usually 1,000 gallon. I mean, what in them capacities, are you going to see like major result difference in terms of growth if you used it in a grow on capacity? Obviously more water. I don't know.
Always. I mean, I'm not saying you need masses of water. You don't need a 3,000 gallon one site in your garage, but I'd say 1,000 gallons a good amount of water for the growing. Obviously, the size of the pond is going to limit, or not even so. Your filter is the big thing, and the surface area that you can produce. So, if you can get one that's more that rectangular shape, only 300 gallons, it might be better than a square one at 500 gallons.
Right.
And it's obviously depending on the filter system attached to it, because what people will tend to do is get a 300-gallon pond and put a filtration system on it that's capable. And this is how it's been quoted again in the past. It might be to say this filter is capable of doing 500 or 1,000 gallons. Wrong way to look at a filter system for a start, because in this particular scenario, we're talking about growth. So you should be looking at the filter based on how much food can that filter potentially handle.
Yeah.
And I think if I remember back, an easy pod used to be quoted at somewhere between 100 and 150. It might have been 150 grams a day back when it was standard K1. You know, that's in reality, that's not a lot of food.
No.
You know, that 1,000-gallon pond, you can actually, if you went with the 1,000, you can do a lot of things with it. Even the 300-gallon. You know, you've seen the new shipment in QT. You know, there's 350 sort of 15, 17 centimeter fish swimming around in 400 gallons a minute.
Yeah.
And they're being fed. There's decent amounts of food going in there. There really is. So you can really stock out a tank like that. And when you're using a growing pond as well, it's important, you know, to get the feeding behavior, you have to have a decent amount of fish in there. If you've got a 300-gallon pond, you go and put 5, say 15 centimeter fish in, worrying about the initial feeding. Your problem is there, you're not going to get the feeding behavior to actually put enough food down them in the first place. So it's all a real fine balancing act to get it right. But ultimately, I would go, if it's a growing system, be looking at the shape of it more than the water volume and the filtration system attached to it. Obviously, I think is always ideal, but if you're working smaller, that would be my advice.
I wouldn't want to now take any fish into my main pond that's under 40 centimeters. So whatever system I'd have, you know, because I've got bigger fish now, I think adding smaller fish into that system, it's probably not the most efficient way. So I'd need something to grow to 40 centimeters or so. And you probably could. Do you think you could do that in 500 gallon to 40 centimeter? Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
Again, get the shape of the pond right, especially.
Yeah. Length and width rather than depth.
You've seen, it's not too far away, Joe, the 1,200-gallon systems.
Yeah.
When you're speaking Sakai again, you know, that 1/4 on the right that's been green.
Yeah.
Where I smash them 50 little gems up. I mean, you'd be, I'll show you, well, you're not, when you're back at work, the size of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild, mate, what they're doing again. And then ponds just continue to blow my mind all the time. So basic, but like I say, you would do it if it was less water on the same basis. They're spec'd, if you actually think about it, they're spec'd how, I mean, a standard Nexus as it's sold with the 50 litres of media in, it's like the equivalent of 6 of them biologically.
Yeah.
What's in one of them chambers? You know, it's as much as you get in a Nexus 300 strapped to 1,200 gallons.
Yeah.
So that's how you need to be looking at this stuff, as opposed to, like I say, you go out, you think, oh, an easy pod will filter 2,000 gallons. Yeah, it might do, but chuck some food at it and see what happens.
Yeah. I quite like the idea of a sieve over a shower, but I've also seen, like, you know, the fluid beds that you run in, and I also think for treatment wise, I mean, I'm not saying that they don't work on showers treatments, but I just think if you're treating for any parasites, like, fluid beds are probably the better option, and it's a toss up with that, isn't it?
You see, I don't worry about stuff like that. I think, again, we are starting a whole new conversation. Typically, if a medication's good enough and strong enough, it will go in and kill the parasites.
Yeah.
But yeah, just coming back to it with that, I mean, that's the spec I'm going for with the new ponds when they're done. I think I've mentioned it before. It's going to be sieve, bottom drain, sieve, up over a shower, side drain, biochamber, back into the pond.
Yeah.
So I think that's just going to be an absolute killer system, and dead simple as well.
Exciting.
Cool. I think that's enough for tonight then. Yeah, happy days. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Thanks for your time again, Joe.
Yeah, it's been good.
And yeah, we'll be back next week. I think I'm flying solo with the auction, unless I collar somebody to come on with me for a bit of entertainment. And then, yeah, say question time the night after. So we'll catch you then, folks.
All right. See you soon. Cheers. Bye.